Good morning and welcome to the webinar. Today is part 2 of our presentation with Dennis Heywood, Social Security 201. And just some housekeeping as we go along here. If you have a question during the presentation, put it in the chat box to the right and we'll get to them at the end of the presentation. If you're having technical difficulties, put a note in there and I'll try to address them as we go along. Here's my information. I think everybody's seen this by now, and of course, jot my email down, my phone number down. I can help you getting ready for OEP 2021. Carriers are slowly releasing their information, and we're learning all about the processes to enroll folks in the under 65 market. That's my specialty. It looks like the federally facilitated marketplace training, also known as Obamacare, that will start at the end of July. So right now we're sort of in a limbo period as we kind of get started. So we're preparing for the upcoming OEP for Obamacare. Eric Pouncey Jr. is also on the call. Say hi, Eric.
Good morning.
Eric also works in the same role as I do, and please give him a call or shoot him an email if you have any questions about the individual market. Sandy Weber in our licensing department can assist you getting set up with the different carriers. We have individual carriers, we have short-term carriers, and of course on the group side of the house, we have all the group carriers as well. Joyce Feinauer and Commissions can assist you with your comp statements, etc. And again, there's my information. I can assist you with all the processes associated with the individual market, quoting, customer service, etc. Cornerstone's incentive program will be back in 2021. With all new prizes, qualifiers have the chance to win up to $5,000 on a travel voucher for a weekend getaway to a destination of your choice. The brokers qualify by earning points for the new to Cornerstone group and individual medical and ancillary sales. Minimum of 2,000 points to be eligible for a cash reward and a chance to win this weekend getaway. The top 20 qualifiers earn cash. Brokers must register online in order to participate. And there's the website right there. And the earning period is from January 1st of 2020 through December 31st of 2020. Autopilot is a compensation-based client referral program that offers the services of licensed representatives to quote, enroll, support, and provide year-round service to your clients that may fall out of your business scope or never off your radar. Get it? Autopilot. Under this program, you can focus on growing your business with the assurance that your clients will continue to receive the benefits of your market expertise and continued superior service and support. Our talented team will take care of your clients' health insurance needs for individual and family coverage, employee benefits, or Medicare solutions. Activate Autopilot today. Click on the link on our website. And here we go, Dennis Heywood, part 2 of the Social Security webinar series. And Denny?
Yes, sir.
Great. I'm going to toss it to you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. For those of you that were here a week ago, we talked about some basic Social Security things that are in my usual presentation. For those of you that weren't here, I'll go over my background again. I born and raised here in Cincinnati, graduated from Xavier University and was in the Army for a couple years. In 1973, I took a job with Social Security and worked there for 30 years, 29 and a half years. Felt like 300 years sometimes, but all jobs do. After I left Social Security in 2001, I worked for an attorney for a few years who did Social Security disability representational work. And then I started my own consulting business in around 2005. And I've been doing this ever since then, part-time. So I'm semi-retired, I guess you might say. But I live in Loveland. I'm married. I have 2 children. My son's a mason fireman and has his home inspection business too, and my daughter lives in Granville, and 4 grandchildren. So I've got a lot of local connections here, but I do business throughout the United States, and actually, literally, I've had some clients in Israel and Norway, so this is a worldwide program, I guess. Today's presentation, you didn't have to be here last week to get this week, okay? We're going down a little bit more, I won't say complicated, but a little different path here with some subjects. And we're going to cover disability benefits under Social Security. We're going to cover misinformation cases. We're going to cover an issue that I call they said, and it's about who are you listening to, your friends, your relatives, your neighbors telling you about Social Security. We're going to discuss Medicare entitlement, and the last subject is going to be dealing with Social Security, some practical advice. So let's get started right away. We'll probably have plenty of time for questions in the end. By the way, this is my contact information on the screen. If you need my website contains all pertinent information about me, plus my fees and my services, which I will go into briefly at the end of the presentation today. So if you need to contact me, there's my number. Feel free to do so. Social Security disability benefits. Well, it's important to note that Social Security has 2 different Social Security disability programs. One you're all familiar with probably is, I'll refer to it as the SSD, Social Security Disability. There's another program that's called SSI, Supplemental Security Income. We'll cover that in a few minutes. Your SSD program is based on a person's work in the economy through the years, and then they have a disease, an accident, get sick, and they file for Social Security disability. 2 qualifications must be met. You must be insured for Social Security disability, and that's not the same as the 40 quarter rule to get retirement benefits. You need 40 quarters, you need to be fully insured, but you have to have 20 quarters out of the previous 40 quarters. Another way to say that is you got to have 5 years of work out of the previous 10 years before you became disabled. So if you have an accident today, they look back 10 years. Do you have 5 years of coverage or 20 quarters of coverage? And if you do, you're insured for disability. People under age 31 don't need to meet the 20/40 rule, but there's another rule. It depends on the number of quarters they've had after age 21, but they've got to meet half the quarters they were eligible to get. So they have to have 16 out of 32 or 14 out of 20, the last 28. So there is a special insured status for younger people. You must meet the definition of disability. It's a very severe test of disability. You get injured on the job, you're going to be off for a few weeks. You're not going to get Social Security disability. Here's the definition of Social Security disability. It's the inability to engage in any substantial gainful activity, SGA. And SGA, there's an earnings threshold they look at. If you're making over $1,260 gross a month from a job or self-employment, by reason you are engaging in SGA. So a lot of people say, well, do I have to stop working? And I tell them just about, okay, because you can't make over $1,260 a month. But it's the inability to engage in any substantial gainful activity by reason of any medically determinable physical or mental impairment or impairments, which can be expected to result in death or which has lasted or can be expected to last for a continuous period of not less than 12 months. And right there is where we get into the subjective decision-making by Social Security. Is this or these issues that are keeping you say are keeping you from working, going to keep you working for 12 months? Car accident, severe injuries, rehab, recovery, expected to be back to work in 8 months, you're not going to get disability. metastatic cancer of the brain, you're going to get disability. I'll talk more about that later, but this is the basic definition of Social Security disability benefit. There is a waiting period for Social Security SSD. There's a 5-month waiting period from the onset date for payments to start. So if you have an injury today, you've got a 5-month waiting period. And that 5 months is July, August, September, October, November. And the first check would be payable for December if you're found disabled. But if you're disabled, if the accident happens July the 2nd, then your waiting period is August, September, October, November, December, and your first check is for January. So it's the first 5 full months after your injury or your onset of your disease or diseases. There is a 24-month waiting period for Medicare to start. The exceptions are ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, and kidney dialysis. There's a 5-month waiting period for Medicare to start for those diagnosed with those diseases. That 24-month period starts after your 5-month waiting period. So if your first check, you become disabled July the 1st, your waiting period is July through November, your first check is due for December, then in December of 2020, your waiting period starts, and in December of 22, you're eligible for Medicare. These are the waiting periods under disability benefits. Medical decisions is made by the state DDS, Disability Determination Services. They're a component of the state where you live. In Ohio, it's the Ohio Job and Family Services, and they are a component of Job and Family Services. So each state has at least one DDS. Like New York, I think, has 6. Other states have at least one. It takes about 4 to 5 months to get a decision, or longer sometimes, depending on, and a lot of times it is a process of, it's slowed by Social Security because of lack of personnel sometimes, but more than likely, a lot of these are held up by doctors not submitting medical reports. What happens when you file a disability claim? It goes to the local office where you live. They, in turn, if you file online or if you file with the local office, there's a couple ways to do it. You can file an online disability claim, which I do a lot of for people, or you can call Social Security and make an appointment. But either way, the initial claim and everything you send in is going to end up in the local office. The local office then takes the medical information out of that, because there's more than just medical information in it, and they send that electronically to the state of Ohio or the state where you live, to their DDS. To give you a perspective on the volume of cases, Ohio has, I don't know how many examiners they have, but they have a holding tank where these come in and you wait in line to be assigned to someone. And there's usually 3,000 to 4,000 cases waiting to be assigned to an examiner in DDS in Columbus at any one time. If you think that's bad, out in Arizona and the less popular states, believe it or not, there was at one point a 6-month waiting period to get it assigned to an examiner. Now, right here, it's usually within 30 days your case is assigned to an examiner. And everything's done electronically at that point. They send out requests to your doctors. They process your case. The examiner will be in touch with you. They will probably send another form to you called a function report, about a 7 or 8 page report on your daily activities and ability to deal with life in general, your things you do. Do you go to church? Do you shop? Do you have a problem with authority? I mean, it's a very basic form, but it's got a lot of questions on it about what you're able to do or not do now that you could do before. So in 4 or 5 months, you usually get a decision, and that decision, if denied, can be appealed within 65 days of the denial notice. There's 4 levels of appeal. reconsideration, hearing, appeals counsel, and civil suit. So if your claim's denied, you file for reconsideration. That's usually another 4 to 5 months. If your reconsideration is denied, and that reconsideration goes back to the DDS in Ohio or wherever state you are, to a different set of eyes that look at it and make the decision whether a decision was correct or incorrect. After that reconsideration, if you're denied, you go to a hearing, which is an administrative law judge hears your case, and I will tell you, you need to get an attorney at that point, and the attorney's fee will be 25% of any past due benefits up to $6,000. That's a standard fee for an attorney on a disability case. When I help somebody file for disability, most of them I don't take as a representative. I'm just getting their case to the DDS, and I charge $750 to put everything together and get the claim filed. The hearing's denied, and the time from the denial to the reconsideration to having a hearing can be a year to a year and a half. If the hearing's denied, you can appeal it to the appeals counsel, and they will make a decision in 3 to 4 years. And then if they deny it, you go to civil suit. There is a point at which, after a hearing, you could file a new claim with maybe some new evidence and submit it as a claim, but you're getting into some complicated areas. This is how the medical decision process goes. Once you're approved, they don't let you loose and say, okay, you got disability. There are medical reviews every 2 to 7 years, depending on the type of medical conditions we're dealing with. Of course, if you have an ALS case or a brain cancer that's terminal, there's no review on those, all right, obviously. But there are some cases like severe diabetes or cancer that a person's fighting and being treated for, but it is debilitating. They'll look at that every 2 to 3 years, maybe. There are cases that if in case you're receiving disability and you decide to go back to work, you get a 9-month trial work period. You can make as much as you want, go back to the job and make $100,000 a year, and they're going to pay you for 9 more months. The disability, if you're still working, is ceased in the 9th month if work continues at the SGA level, which is at least $1,260 a month. So substantial gainful activity in 2020 is $1,260 a month. The trial work period is $910 a month. Well, why is that there? Okay. Well, if you take a mediocre job where you're making $400 a month, you don't even have a trial work month. All right. You get 9 trial work months, and that's it. So if you've gone to work off and on over a couple of years, and in over a 24, 25 month period, you accrue 9 trial work months, not necessarily 9 SGA months, just 9 trial work months. Then after that, the first month you hit SGA 1260, your case is suspended, is ceased. Of course, Social Security usually doesn't find out about this till a year and a half later. So this is where the overpayments come in. So I always caution people, if you go back to work, you got to be conscious of how that works and what a trial work period is, or you can get overpaid a bunch of money. So this is the basic continuing disability reviews. They can review you medically, and if you go back to work, they may do a medical review on you to see if you've ceased earlier, but they're going to give you a 9-month trial work period. This other program for disability is called Supplemental Security Income. And Supplemental Security Income, you're eligible for that if you're at least age 65 or disabled. The disability definition is the same as the SSD program. You've got to be severely disabled. But the payments depend on your income, resources, and living arrangements of the disabled person. If you have a spouse that's working, that part of their income is deemed to be yours. If you have children, there's a deduction for children. This is a complicated, paper-heavy program. Trust me. I spent the first 6 or 7 years of my career in this program. In 2020, the maximum payment to an individual is $803. And to a couple, If they're both disabled or both 65, the max payment is $11.95. What determines whether you get that full payment is what other income do you have. If you have a Social Security check coming in of $600, you're not going to get the $803. You're going to get $600 less than that. Actually, you're going to get about $223. There's a $20 disregard. In the same way with a couple, if you have other Social Security income, if a couple's got $1,000 Social Security coming in and no other resources, they'd get about a 195 or a 205, 215 in SSI. The 2020 maximum resource limit is $2,000 for an individual, $3,000 for a couple. And that $2,000 or $3,000 is liquid cash, anything that can be converted into cash in 30 days. Not property you may own that you're living on. If you own other property, then that's a resource and they count that against you. And you're allowed to own a car, and there's other stipulations in here. So this supplemental security income is a means-tested program. Let's go on to another subject that is, unfortunately, happens very often. People listen to other people instead of finding out the facts or the truth. They said. I'll give you an example, and that's all I'm going to give you a couple examples of they said. It could be a coworker, relative, your supervisor, even HR departments, friends project this myth, some myths. The first biggest myth is that you got to have Medicare, so you got to file for Part A as soon as you turn 65 or you'll be penalized. Untrue if you're on a group health plan with a company with more than 20 employees. Often what people do is they file for Part A because they listen to somebody else, and guess what? They have an HSA, and if you have Part A of Medicare, they don't take Part B. They stayed on their group health plan. Okay, so they just took Part A because they didn't want to be penalized like somebody told them. And they're on this group health plan with more than 20 employees, and they cannot contribute to an HSA account that they have. They are done contributing. They can use it, what's in the funds, and the company can contribute, but they can't contribute to it anymore. And the reason is because Part A is considered a public health program, and you can't have a tax advantage, which an HSA contribution is, if you're on a public health program. Don't assume what they said applies to you. Classic they said statements. I'll give you an example. Is Part A. I have another classic that cost a lady about $103,000. She listened to the employees at work, and they told her, you're making too much money to get your Social Security. You might as well just wait till you're 70. They told her this at age 66, okay? And she bought it, making too much money. And she said, I was going to wait till 70 anyway and not take my benefits, so I'm still working. I'm happy in my job, and I'm making too much money to get Social Security, but I know I could take it at 66, but I don't want it. I want delayed retirement credits. Well, what they forgot to ask her was, were you ever married and divorced? And is that husband still alive? And she was married for 20 years and divorced that husband, and he died, and he had a really good Social Security benefit, and she could have filed for that at age 66 and didn't file. Luckily, her HR director referred her to me about last September, and we got a claim filed for disabled widows. I'm not disabled, but for widow benefits, divorced widow benefits. We got her 6 months back pay, and she turned 70 last March. So in September, they went back to March and paid her $2,900 a month, divorced widow benefits. And so she did get a chunk of that money, about 30-some thousand, but she did leave about 100,000 on the table she could have had since age 66. So don't always listen to what they said. Take it to an official source and get it checked out. Consult with an expert or Social Security. Now we're into another arena called misinformation from official source. This is information that is given to you either orally or in writing that is not correct or complete or misleading is provided by an SSA official, an employee, orally or in writing, and it pertains to your entitlement on filing a claim or interest in a possible claim. Classic example, classic. And this, unfortunately, this happens all the time, unfortunately. We were in Florida with some friends, and we were talking, this is about 6-7 years ago. We were talking, and one brought up the fact that the wife hadn't filed yet, a good friend of ours, and her husband was getting benefits. And she says, I'm just going to wait till 70. He started his at 66. And she was born in like 1943, I believe. And we told her, when you go home, you need to contact Social Security because, you know, her husband had been killing her that she could restrict to the spousal benefit, which was about $1,300 a month, and take the spousal benefit when she turned 66. So a couple of months before she turned 66, she went into a local office here and talked to somebody, and they said, oh, you can't get that. Half of yours is more than half of his. Now, this was somebody at a window as soon as you walk in and take a number, and those are service representatives. They're not as highly skilled and trained as claims representatives. But they sent her away, and you need to know, and everybody needs to know, when you make a contact like that, it's electronically recorded. As soon as you go in and take a number, they got to document what you came to the window about, and they did. So she's a good friend of ours, and I called her up about 6 months later. I said, let's do lunch, see how you're doing. Okay, so we went to lunch, and we're talking, and I said, how'd that go at Social Security? She said, oh, I was embarrassed to tell you, Danny, that you were wrong. I can't get that. And I went, wait a minute. That's not right. So I said, we're going to file a misinformation complaint. And it ended up with, you know, they should have told her, yes, you could get it because she was underage. She was 66 at the time, and not send her away. And so the misinformation claim came through, and they paid her back due money. She got a check for like $19,000 back pay, $1,300 a month times so many months, and then a continuing $1,300 a month until she turned 70. That's one classic case, but that happens all the time at those windows in Social Security. So be careful with that. Understand that they make an electronic record of your discussion every time you call or go into an office. Another classic case is, and this one's not a lady called me from Maryland and said, they're telling me I can't get delayed retirement credits on my widow benefit. I said, no, there's widow benefits don't accrue delayed retirement credits through 70. Only retirement benefits do. She said, well, I got this piece of paper here that somebody at the 800 number sent me, and they told me my widow benefit would be about $800 higher when I'm 70. And I said, send it to me. So again, we approached the Maryland office and said, look what she got. And so she decided not to take anything and wait on her own till 70 when she could have had the widow benefit early at a lower amount, and then hers would have been higher at 70. So once again, we got that had happened 4 years earlier. So she got a bundle. She got about I think it was like $98,000 back pay. These kind of situations come up, so I'm just saying be careful. There's a reference here, GN 00204.008. That's the misinformation section of their manual. And the reason I got that there is in case you or anybody else in dealing with Social Security thinks you got bad information, and you call them and want to file a misinformation claim, and you might run into somebody that says, well, we don't do that, because I've had that happen too. We don't do that. Well, what do you mean you don't do it? There it is. You got to do it. You can't tell somebody you don't do it. These are people that don't know their program. So there's the reference on misinformation. Medicare. Medicare is essentially broken down into Part A and Part B, and there is a Medicare Part D prescription coverage. Medicare Part A is hospital insurance. There's no charge for Part A. You've already paid for that in your taxes, and it pays for room and board when you go into a hospital. Medicare Part B, supplemental, pays for everything else except prescription drugs. Pays for doctor bills, tests, x-rays, surgeries, you name it. But Part B has got a deductible, and this year the deductible is $198 per year and a 20% copay. So you're going to pay $198 a year for Part B plus a monthly premium. The premium for that, the basic premium is $144.60. Your premium could be higher, and I'll go into that in a few minutes. Part A, by the way, has a deductible. Every in-hospital stay, you pay the first $1,408, and Medicare pays the rest. So we got that $1,408 deductible on Part A. We got Part B at a 20% copay. So if you have a $100,000 surgery, you're going to pay $20,000. Medicare pays $80,000, unless you have a med sup plan, which we'll go into in just a few minutes. Medicare has enrollment periods. Now, this is really important to understand. I've got examples of enrollment periods. There's your initial enrollment period, which is the 7-month window, 3 months before to 3 months after you turn 65. It's a one-time initial enrollment period for everybody who wants to file and they're 65. There's a special enrollment period for persons who didn't file in their initial, and because they were employed under a group health plan with more than 20 employees, so they kept their group health plan until they may be 68, 69, 70 years old. And the special enrollment period is an 8-month window after the last month of coverage, in which coverage on the group health plan, and then you can enroll in Medicare in any of the 8 months following the end of that group health plan coverage. I'm going to go into it more specifically in just a minute, but your general enrollment period is if you missed the first two or didn't enroll, there's a general enrollment period every year in which you can enroll in Medicare between January 1st and March 31st, and Medicare is not effective until July 1st of that same year. Let's look at an initial enrollment period. And this is important to understand. This schematic over here, this is, let's say age 65 here, you enroll at age 65. Your coverage starts the next month. So if you were born in March and you enroll in March, which means you don't make a call, you sign paperwork and they got it in March. Keep that in mind. This isn't something where you just call up and say, give me Medicare. No, they want a signed form. So in March, you sign the form, your coverage is April 1st. If you enroll in any of the 3 months prior to the month you turn 65, your coverage is effective March 1st, the month you turn 65. But look here, if you enroll the month after you turn 65, if you enroll in the month you turn 65, it's effective April 1st. If you enrolled in the month after you turn 65, it's effective June the 1st. If you enroll 2 months after, so here's 65, it's effective 3 months later. In the same way, if you enroll in the 7th month of your initial enrollment period, which would be June, it's not effective until September 1st. So if you're approaching age 65, you want to file in one of these 3 months if you want it effective and covered the first of the month you turn 65. Medicare special enrollment periods. Now, we're past the initial enrollment period because the initial enrollment period takes precedence over a special enrollment period. So if you're in your initial enrollment period, anytime you're in that initial enrollment period, you have to abide by this schematic, not that one. So if you're in your 3 years pay, let's say you're 68 and you want to file a Medicare, and on December 31st your group plan ends, and you file the monthly employer group health plan coverage ends or stops, your Part B, if you request it in that month, your Part B is effective that same month. If you file in the first month of no employer group health coverage after January, it's effective in January. And then second through the 8th month, coverage starts the month after the month it's requested. You've got 8-month window to enroll. Most people would enroll early. But sometimes this takes some coordination between the group health plan and a wife being covered and taking COBRA for a few months. And then you enroll in Medicare within your special enrollment period. But this is only for people who are not in their initial enrollment period and who are leaving a group health plan coverage with more than 20 employees working for the company. Medicare Part B and D premiums. Medicare Part B and D premiums are based on your modified adjusted gross income from the year before last tax return. Another way to say that is people paying for Medicare Part B and D premiums this year, 2020, Social Security is looking at their 2018 adjusted gross income. And I'll show you what the difference is in just a second, because the premiums are means tested. And if you look at this schematic I got here, 2020 Part B premiums. You can, I hope you all can see this. If you can't, I'll go through it with you, but I can get you a copy of it. You can get a copy of this presentation, and I'll just call me and I'll send you a copy of this. This is this year's premiums thresholds for Part B and Part D down here. So if you're filing a joint tax return and your adjusted gross income is $174,000 or less, assuming man and woman, it doesn't matter, but whatever. If you're $174,000 or less and you're filing jointly, your premium is going to be $144.60. If you're an individual, if your adjusted gross income from 2018 was $87,000 or less, you'll pay the $144.60. But in this second tier here, if you're above 174 and under 218, as a joint filer, you're going to pay $202.40 a month. And so on down the pecking order, 218 to 272, you're going to pay $289 a month for Medicare. Now, this only goes for a year, all right, and then they look at 2019 to determine 2021. Most people don't fall into this, but some do, and you need to be ready because your Part D premium, same threshold, $174,000 or less, you'll pay your plan premium, and that might be $40 for your prescription coverage. 174 to 218, you're going to pay your plan coverage $40 plus $12.20, and so on. 218 to 272, plan coverage plus $31.50. Premiums could be lowered if a life-changing event occurs. What's that mean? Well, one of the things it means that's really important is loss of earnings. So if in 2018, or let's say if in 2019 you were making $150,000 a year, and plus your spouse's income and IRA and other things, and your adjusted gross income came to $180,000, you'd be paying the higher tier. But if in 2021, when you're filing for Medicare, you can go to Social Security and say, look, I've had a life-changing event. I was working back in 2019. I don't have that $150,000 earnings. And then you give them a new estimate of, without that, my adjusted gross income in 2021 is going to be $102,000. And they will lower that premium. They have to. So there is a way out of this. Other life-changing events are if you marry, divorce, death, those kind of things. If you got a severance pay in 1 year that you don't have now, that's all, you could ask for it to be lowered. Because some people get a parachute, maybe $100,000, or they're on in 1 year, and then 2 years later they're holding that against them, and you're not working anymore. So Medicare Part B and D premiums. If you email me, I'll send you, or call, I'll send you that. You can get that on Medicare.gov, these thresholds. Medigap coverage is sold by private insurance companies. It pays what Medicare does not pay. Several plans are available. You got to seek professional advice. I know Cornerstone has a great, Rose Flores and the group there are great with individual plans. I use them all the time. But you go to somebody that knows what they're doing and you trust, okay? Several plans are available, and an expert like Rose and her people there will look at it and tell you, hey, and some of you may have your own agencies where you provide this and you already know this, but you've got to enroll. Your enrollment period is 6 months, beginning with Part B, the Part B effective month. It pays for what Medicare doesn't pay. It pays for the $1,408 deductible on your Part A. It pays the $198 Part B deductible. It pays the 20% copay. And there's other serendipities too. You can get home health care with the private, with the Med Sup coverage. So this is Medigap. Finally, some practical information. I'd like to go over a few things here in my, especially the last 10, 15 years. Using the 800 number, and that's it right there. It's open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. People tell me they call and they're on the phone for an hour. I've been on the phone for 15, 20 minutes with them too, but not an hour or 2 hours. That may be an exaggeration. But understand this, there are multiple teleservice centers throughout the country, and they open as a country opens. They're open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. If you call at 7:05, you've only got the eastern half of the country open for business. If you call at 7 p.m., you've only got the western half of the country open for business, teleservice center-wise. So the best time to call the 800 number is around 1 o'clock, because that's when everybody's up and running. Here's the problem with the 800 number. God love them. They're good people, but they're essentially a conduit, sending information to local offices. They're good for changing your address and changing your direct deposit, and but you can do that online, as you'll see in my 5th bullet down there. You've got to be very careful with what people tell you on the 800 number. I've had so much misinformation, and there's a difference between misinformation and some of the information they get. I mean, just things like how soon should I file? Can I file now? You know, and they'll give an off-the-wall answer. No, you got to wait till the month before you turn 66. Well, you don't have to. You can file 4 months before you turn 66. Your local office hours throughout the country are Monday through Friday are 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. There are local offices that you're better off if you've got a complex situation going into the local office when they open up. But you're still better off if you got the local office numbers and they are available, they're calling the local office and talking to somebody. Here's another information. There is a website, and you don't run into this often that you've got to do it. That's why I don't have it up here. But there are officials with Social Security, good people, called public affairs officers. And they clear up a lot of messes, okay? And they are great resources. And it depends where you live, who the public affairs officer is here. We have a young lady here in Cincinnati. She's really great, and she covers like at least southern Ohio. But if you have a problem, or you want to know what's going on, or you need to talk to somebody in the local office, and you don't have the number, I can get you the public affairs officer's phone number and names. It's available online, but you got to know where to go under Social Security to get it. Filing online versus local office appointments. The problem with local office appointments is that it takes about 4 to 6 weeks before they can schedule one. They're filled, especially now, because there's no in-office appointments. So you'll have a problem getting a local office appointment. Filing online is the way to go. All right, filing online, I find I do a lot of applications for people, And my fee is $200, but it's done and it's in, and within 30 days things are settled. And they do a pretty fine job, these online claims, because the online claims not going to a local office. There are intake centers throughout the country, 10 or 15 of them, that get these claims processed. If you're ever overpaid, or anybody's ever overpaid, you can offer an 80% compromise offer, and they must accept it. The reference on that I got right there. POM stands for Program Operations Manual System. And this is the reference, GN 2215.105B2. Don't let them tell you they can't do it. It's appealable. They will accept, they're supposed to accept the check hands down. And if you read that reference there, that's what it says. So if you're ever overpaid, now they will take it out in installments if you want. Excuse me, but you know, if you're overpaid $5,000, you can offer them $4,000 and they'll take it. Write them a check. I encourage everybody to open up a My Social Security account. Really important. And watch, make sure. I don't know how many people I've talked to, helped them out, and I went, hey, how come 2014's blank? There's no earnings shown on your, oh, I don't know. Now, you want to fix those kind of things before you got to file for benefits. And you can watch it every year. Your earnings go in there. And you can go into the My Social Security account and pull it up and see what's going on with your record, how much your benefits are. And when you're getting Social Security, it'll tell you how much. You can go get your 1099 there. By chance, it doesn't get mailed to you. So it's a very, very useful tool. Well, it's been good being with you today. I want to give you some information about me, and there it is. My website contains a lot of information about my background and the services I offer. The two main services I do are retirement analysis for couples and individuals and online retirement and disability claims. All right, these are the top three bullets there are the things that I do. About probably 85% of my time is on retirement analysis, and you can read what that is. That involves everything we've gone through in the previous session on when you can get it, spousal benefits, widow benefits, Medicare for individuals. Online retirement claims, $200. You see the fees for individuals and couples there. Disability claim, $750 or a fee agreement. I usually charge $750 up front, no fee agreements needed. Okay, misinformation cases are on a fee agreement basis. And other issues, $250 an hour. So it's been good being here today with you people. I'll entertain some questions now.
Great. Thank you so much, Denny. We've got several questions we want to get into. First question. Just a general topical question. What are your thoughts about the total privatization of Social Security?
Oh, wow. Well, that's been around a while. I'm not a proponent of it. I'm not a fan of it. I think it's, I think they want to give people some autonomy, but, you know, you can lose your autonomy real quick when the market goes south. I think people that are, you know, younger, okay, don't see themselves ever getting Social Security. I know I didn't. I remember the first day I worked at Social Security and first month, and people were saying they'll never be there for me. That was 1973, and they've done changes. Right, and so here we are. But they've done some major changes. Okay, so but I got that all the time, and I went to my boss. I said, "What do I tell these people?" He says, "You tell them as long as Congress has the power to tax, we're going to have Social Security," and that's the truth. So. Privatization, I'm not a fan of it, but it could happen, I think.
Next question, what about supplemental in Ohio for those on Medicare Social Security under the age of 65? Supplemental.
If you're under 65, you've got to be disabled for supplemental security income.
Okay.
If that's the question.
Be disabled. Yeah, I think so. Next question, are we supposed to report SSI while filing our tax return, I guess through 1040? Again, that's
Well, I'm not an accountant. I would take that to your accountant, but I really don't know. I mean, if it's part of your adjusted gross income, uh, I think if you're making over X amount of dollars, it's reportable. But that's an accounting question. I don't want to touch that.
All right. Here's another question that circles back to that Medicare item you led off with earlier. I think about having your Part A.
Yeah.
Is it my understanding that the company cannot contribute to the HSA as well?
I don't think. I think they can contribute and they can take the tax deduction if they because they don't have Part A.
Right.
You know, some of these plans both contribute the company and the individual. I think they can contribute.
Yeah.
Mine did when I had it.
Okay. Yeah. Can people with here's a good question. Can people with a green card apply for SSI?
As long as you're a legal alien admitted, you can apply for SSI and get it many times. Oh, yeah.
Okay. And just more to that question, how long do they have to live in the U.S.? Do they have to work in the U.S.?
Well, if they got a green card, you know, there's usually for Medicare, there's a 5-year residency rule. But if you've got a green card and you've been admitted, you can get it. All right.
Okay.
There's not a residency rule on that. There is on getting Medicare. There's a 5-year residency rule on that, but not on getting SSI. As long as you're legally admitted.
Okay. Next question. So I turned 65 last month, but I'm under my wife's group insurance, which is a large group, and she has an HSA. So even though it's their group coverage I'm on, based on what you said, I don't have to sign up for Part A until she retires. Is that correct?
Correct. And okay. They're only looking at you because she's contributing to the HSA. That's fine. She's not going to take Part A. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Okay. Next question. And I do want to point out this is being recorded, like they all are. All the webinars are recorded, and they all are archived on our website. What's more, I will, when we get done formatting this thing, I'll send everybody a copy of this recording, and I'm gonna, and Denny might have some other handouts he can share with us too. So I have a beneficiary who received a letter from Social Security notifying him that he has IRMA, so that's IRMMA, due to an increase in income from 2 years ago from a one-time real estate sale. His income last year was below the $87,000 threshold. Can he appeal the IRMA decision? And if not, how long does it stand?
Read that again. IRMA, you mean
IRMA,
getting charged a higher
IRMMA. I think that's some new regulation that came out.
Work expenses, but she means the Medicare increased premium, or he does.
Okay. Yeah.
I assume. Read that to me.
The beneficiary received a letter from Social Security notifying him that he has an IRMA due to an increase in income 2 years ago from a one-time real estate sale. But his income last year was below the $87,000 threshold. Can he appeal this IRMA decision?
Well, yeah, but I don't know that that's an appealable. Well, it's not called appealable. You would go in and claim a life-changing event, but you know it's the same thing as he got it because of the sale of property, correct? Real estate. It's the same thing as taking out of your IRA. You got it. 2 years later, you're going to get hit with the higher premium. I do not believe that is appealable. You can check it out on Medicare's website. They have, they'll tell you, but the main events are loss of earnings, not a sale of property.
Can you just give a quick summary or just a description of what IRMA is or stands for those folks that aren't?
Just a second.
It's like an assessment.
Right. It stands increased premiums due to an individual's higher income.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Income-related adjustment.
Yeah.
Income-related adjustment, Medicare. Okay.
Medicare.
Yeah, that's Medicare. Now when you say IRMA, I-R-M-A, that's another term for impairment-related work expenses, and that's on disability. So
leave it to the government to make it complicated.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
So that's when you said IRMA, I-R-M-A, it's impairment-related work expenses. I think she meant increased premium due to higher income.
That's right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
IRMMA. That's the one we talked about.
Yeah.
I hope everybody hears the sound good. I'm, getting some input that the sound's kind of fading in and out, but again, we're using duct tape and baling wire. We're in about 3 different locations. I'm at home, so relying on good old Cincinnati Bell. What about someone on dialysis but is still working? Are his only options to pay the 20% because he is still working?
He can get Medicare, but you got to be on self-dialysis.
Okay. Time for a couple more questions. The definition of IRMA is income-related monthly adjustment.
Right.
Thank you, Charles, on that one. Great. So leave it to the government to make it complicated, though. Okay. Yeah. So I think that's all I have. Again, we thank you so much for joining us. Everybody got a copy of this presentation, and just fascinating stuff. Just really helpful. You do a tremendous job making the complicated sound relatively. I shouldn't say simple, but understandable. And once again, Denny, I'm going to put your screen back up if I can. Everybody see that screen there? That's his phone number and his website. Throughout the course of the year, if you certainly need his contact information again, just reach out to me or Eric, and we can provide that for you. And with that, we will conclude the presentation. Everybody have a great rest of the day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.